For over 35 years, video games have played a vital role throughout our history. From Pac-Man, to Mario, to Sonic the Hedgehog, the industry has managed to produce a legacy that runs deep into our culture. As you'll see in this series, the journey from point A to point B is not as clear-cut as one would expect. And along the way, there are many hardships, rivalries, and cutthroat industry tactics that shaped the industry into what it is today. But in order to tell this interesting saga, we must go back and start at the beginning. Back in 1961, computers were just emerging as a new technology, and one of the few places you could even find one was at the MIT University. During that same year, a student by the name of Steve Russell started work on a computer program that was revolutionary for its time. What he ended up creating was a video game called Spacewar. Now the game shown here is not an exact replica of the original, but it's pretty darn close. Spacewar is a two-player game that allows each player to take control of a tiny spaceship, and it becomes your mission to destroy the other player by shooting at him before he can destroy you. Hell yeah! But aside from avoiding the other player's attacks, you'll also have to worry about this small dot in the center of the screen, which represents the sun. And if you accidentally touch it, you die. The sun also has its own gravitational pull, so if you travel too close to it, you'll get sucked in and killed! What a bitch. Now it is possible to use the gravitational pull to your advantage by slingshotting your shots around the sun. It's just too bad I was on the receiving end of that attack. What a pile of shit! One of the cool aspects about this game is that whenever you're on the verge of being killed or destroyed, all you have to do is press the hyperdrive button, and your ship will disappear from the screen. Alright, time to throw this thing into hyperdrive! But be forewarned that once you disappear, you can randomly reappear anywhere on the screen. Ah! Even right next to the sun! Holy fireballs of shit! How come this stuff never happens to Captain Kirk? The game Spacewar was an instant hit around campus, but sadly, Steve wouldn't be able to make a dime off his invention since Spacewar just couldn't be marketed. At the time, computers like this one ended up costing around $150,000, and one of the few places you could even find one were at universities. And since Spacewar was only playable on these large computers, the odds of actually playing this game back then were about 1,000,000 to 1. Steve had taken the idea of video games as far as it could go, and the concept of video gaming had to wait almost 9 years until a man by the name of Nolan Bushnell could take the concept to the next level. While attending college, Nolan had become a huge fan of the game Spacewar, and instantly realized the potential of what computer games could become. After graduating, Nolan set off to create a game like Spacewar that he could make money off of. He first spent many months building a prototype of the game that would work on a TV rather than a computer. He then took the TV and built a fiberglass cabinet around it and placed the game's controls just below the screen. Even though the product was a complete eyesore, Nolan had just created the very first coin-operated video game, and he named it Computer Space. Now believe it or not, there are actually two different versions of Computer Space that were made, the one-player game and the two-player game. The two-player games were painted green, and the one-player only games were painted yellow, red, blue, and Bob Euchre. Dropping a quarter into the game buys you 90 seconds of playtime. Now in a one-player game, you take control of a spaceship, and it's your job to fly around the screen and destroy as many alien spaceships as you can before the timer runs out. Fire torpedoes! Yeah, that'll show those anal-probing bastards who's boss around here. But the two-player game, on the other hand, becomes an all-out dogfight between you and the second player. Just like in Spacewar, the objective is to kill the other guy as many times as possible. But this time, a point system has been added to the game, so you can keep track of just how badly you beat the shit out of the other player. Once the timer runs out, it's time to tally up your score. Alright, let's see. My score is 2 and the other player has 64? What the fuck?
Yes, yes! Up yours, bitch!
Sadly, the game Computer Space never caught on, and it was most likely caused by the game's complicated controls. Since each ship had to be controlled by a set of 4 buttons, it was just a little bit too much for people to absorb. If Nolan learned anything from this experience, it was that he would have to keep things simple if he wanted his game to catch on. A few months later, on May 24th, 1972, inspiration would strike again when Nolan decided to attend a private demonstration of Magnavox's newest product. And that product was called the Magnavox Odyssey, which was the very first home video game system. Coming up in part 2, the review of the Magnavox Odyssey.